welcome back to Up North at 4. We are joined by Ted Rulseh, otherwise known as the Lake Guy. What about that name? Why did we get that? This is my first time meeting you, so I'd love to know.
Yeah, I was on public radio a couple of times to talk about lakes, and one of the hosts kind of put that nickname on me. And I kind of liked it, so I adopted it. That's what my website is, thelakeguy.net. So
I love that.
So Ted, you're an author in the United County area. You write a lot about lakes. So we just got this big dumping of snow on top of the ice. What does that mean for lakes across the Northwoods?
Oh, what that means, well, for me, what it means is it's going to be hard to take my walks on the lake. And for people who like to go ice fishing, it's going to make the travel between spots a lot more difficult unless they have a vehicle. But the snowshoers and the skiers and the snowmobilers are going to love it.
Awesome. Well, let's back up a little bit. When it comes to ice forming on the lake, how fast does that happen? When is it safe to go out there?
Well, let's hold the question about when it's safe for a little later. But the way it starts is when the ice starts to freeze. Just to keep it simple, a day that's 17 degrees average temperature Fahrenheit will create an inch of ice. And that'll continue at a slower rate because ice is kind of an insulator, so it insulates the water below from the cold air above. But a rule of thumb is a 17-degree average temperature day will give you an inch of ice.
I have a kind of a dumb question. But
there are no dumb questions.
This was, me as a kid, I would always think, okay, the lake just freezes and it's completely frozen, right? And the fish are all frozen. Is that ever... Don't laugh. Is that ever like a possibility?
That is a very unlikely possibility, even on a very shallow lake.
Could happen.
But the cool thing about ice, the really cool thing about ice is that it floats. And I'll tell you why. Because if ice didn't float, almost any other liquid gets increasingly dense as it cools. So the solid form of the material will sink to the bottom. Now imagine what would happen if ice did that. The lake would gradually, through the winter, fill up with ice and freeze all the way down to the bottom, and there would be no life.
Yeah, well.
But the fact is that ice is about 10% less dense than water, so it floats on the top, and the snow and ice insulate the water below, so that ice will get maybe 3 feet thick on the lakes up here.
Wow.
I've seen it that thick on my lake, but it won't go all the way down to the bottom. When we get winter kill on our lakes, that's really caused by lack of oxygen, the depletion of the oxygen, and not by ice freezing all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, so can you explain that a little bit? How is there still oxygen in the water if it's completely trapped from the air?
The lake gets infused with oxygen in the winter before the ice forms. There's a lot of wave action, and that's stirring oxygen into the water. And the colder the water is, the more oxygen it can hold. So that by the time the ice forms, the lake is holding more oxygen than at any other time of the year. So that creates actually a quite big scuba tank for the fish and other life in the lake to breathe on until the ice goes off.
Wow, colder it gets, the more oxygen it has.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
That's right.
Interesting. Well, I have a question. So if you live on a lake, you probably hear a lot of that booming noise. What is that when the lakes freeze over? Oh,
that is so cool. It's caused by the ice expanding and contracting and fracturing, and it can make booming, popping sounds. Sometimes it makes musical notes. I remember sitting ice fishing with a friend one day, and the ice was kind of like playing music for us. And sometimes it even makes a sound like whale songs. And it's just the expanding and contraction of the ice.
But why does ice expand and contract? Isn't it just ice?
Just like any other material almost will expand and contract as it freezes and warms.
So kind of the more, like, obviously it's going to be frozen at 32 degrees, but it's going to be a different density once it gets down to 0 or negative 20 degrees, or how does...
I don't know if it changes density, but it does, as it gets colder, it does begin to fracture. And yeah.
Does that make it unsafe to go on the lake or anything like that?
The fact that it's booming doesn't mean the lake is unsafe. That's a whole other question. The booming is usually happening when the ice is already pretty substantial. It kind of gets squeezed in against the shorelines. You know, it's trying to expand and it's hitting the shoreline, so it's forming cracks. So sometimes I'll be on the ice fishing and a crack will just go sizzling right past me, but that doesn't mean the ice is a foot thick. I'm not in any danger at all.
Interesting. I feel like I learned so much just in these past like 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, awesome. Well, you know what? We will be right back with more ice practices from Ted.